Ubiquiti's gateway supports multiple ways to set up VPN. It supports different VPN servers. And if you want to secure your network when it's connected to VPN, if you enabled zone-based firewall, you may realize it's not very straightforward, very intuitive when it comes to where and how to set up the firewall policies. So in this video, we will not only talk about how, where to create your firewall policies, but also we will go to the backend to understand why we need to set up the firewall policies in that way. There will be 4 parts for this video. First, you simply connect to the VPN server hosted on your UniFi gateway. Second, a special case. What if you use Teleport as your VPN? The third part, what if you use your UniFi gateway as a VPN client to external VPN servers? And the very last part, we will talk about the site-to-site VPN or site magic, how you can secure your network. This is my lab environment. I use a UDM Pro as the UniFi gateway. If I go to network controller, go to settings for network, you can see I only have default network and a VLAN 10. For security, you can see I already enabled zone-based firewall. You can see no any custom firewall policies. It's default standard firewall. Then if I go to VPN, for VPN server, you can see I have set up a WireGuard server. And for the subnet, you can see I set it to 88 subnet. I added one client, which is the lower left, the Mac Studio. Because I already set up this WireGuard server, if I go to the zone-based firewall, you can see for the zones, the system automatically add my WireGuard server to the VPN zone. That's automatic, and you don't have a way to change it based on the current or default settings. In the VPN client machine, let me activate the VPN. Okay, it's connected. Then from the address, you can see this IP address, right? You can also confirm from the UniFi network controller under client devices. You can see this Mac Studio. Yes, it's connected through WireGuard. This is the IP address. Then from the VPN client machine, let me try to ping the right side VLAN 10 client. So let me first get the IP address for the VLAN 10 client. Okay, it's .10.23. Then in the left side, let me ping it. Yeah, it's pingable. That's expected because that's the default behavior, right? No firewall policies to prevent this type of connection. Then let's see what if you don't like it. You want to prevent the VPN client from accessing VLAN 10. So the reason I put this scenario as the first part is it's the most straightforward, very apparent, and you almost have no way to make mistake. Because as I mentioned, if you go to the security settings firewall, the WireGuard server is already put to VPN zone. Of course, if you want to prevent a VPN client from accessing your VLAN 10, you know where to create the firewall policy, right? So it should be from VPN to internal because VLAN 10 is part of the internal. You can also see from the zone information, right? Then let's go to it. You can see now by default is allow all. Now let's create a new policy. Block WireGuard VPN client to VLAN 10. Then source zone VPN. You may have multiple VPN servers set up in your gateway. If your firewall policy is only for the WireGuard server, you need to specify it. Use change to server, then select the WireGuard server. For action, I want to block. For destination, I only want to block VLAN 10. Okay, then that's it. Let me add policy. Okay, it should be effective now. Let me try the exact same ping command again from the VPN client. Okay, see, now it's not pingable. We successfully achieved what we want. And there are 2 things I want to mention before we move on. First, it's just a simple example, right? If you want to brutally prevent the connection between the 2 networks. But if you do want the VLAN 10 client to access VPN client, you need to create another custom firewall policy to allow that. I don't want to waste your time to talk about that in this video. It's very easy. And the second point is we are talking about zone-based firewalls. There are other zones. We only touched internal and the VPN. In the interest of time, of course, I cannot cover everything. But as long as you know the VPN client is in VPN zone, then you simply set up your firewall policy accordingly, right? Then let's move on to the second part of the video. Let's talk about teleport. I do have a deep dive video for teleport. I'm going to put the link in the description for this video. So in this video, we are not going to talk about the details, but you should know teleport under the hood, it uses WireGuard. But your client is not directly connected to your gateway. Instead, they are using turn server on the internet as a relay. Because of the way it works, you need to set up the firewall policies differently than WireGuard. From UniFi Network Controller, if I go to VPN for teleport, you can see I already enable it. And I already sent the invite to the VPN client in lower left. Let me use Wi-Fi Man in the Mac Studio to connect to the UniFi gateway using teleport. I simply click on the on button. Yeah, it's connected. There are two different things which make the firewall rules setting difficult. The first thing is if you check the teleport setting in gateway, you have no way to specify the subnet. You don't know what's the subnet. And then the second problem is if you go to security firewall, you can see under VPN teleport is not listed. So you are not sure whether your teleport client is within the VPN zone. So these two things make the firewall setting a little bit confusing. Initially, you may think, okay, let me simply create a block inter-VLAN firewall. It should prevent the teleport client from accessing my internal VLAN, right? Does that work? Let's try it. Go to internal. Create a new policy. Let me simply say block inter-VLAN and I change nothing else. By default, it's block any to any. That's exactly what I want. Add policy, proceed. Okay, so the block inter-VLAN policy is active. Then from the VPN client, let me ping the right side VLAN 10 client. It is still pingable. So this block inter-VLAN firewall is not effective to this traffic. You may be confused, right? If we go to the client devices for this Mac Studio, you can see the IP address is .3.2. If I go to my network setting, I can see for the default network, the subnet is .1. And then for VLAN 10 is .10. And because I run this lab environment behind my main gateway, so the one part IP address for this gateway is in fact in the LAN subnet, which is .2. So which means .1, .2, .10, they are already occupied. See, what's the subnet for the teleport client is .3. So the .3 is not random. That's the very first available subnet after you restart your gateway, after you restart teleport D, the server. So the server will check which subnet under 192.168 is available. Then it will use that subnet, the first available IP address for your teleport client. So the next puzzle we need to resolve is in the settings for firewall, in which cell we want to create our firewall policy. We just tried from internal to internal. It doesn't work, right? Naturally, we think it should be from VPN to internal, but we do not have hard evidence. Before you proceed, you may want to confirm you are creating the firewall policy under the correct cell. How you can prove that? If we go to from VPN to internal, you can see there is a existing policy. It's called allow all traffic. We want to see whether for the current traffic from the teleport client to the VLAN 10 client, whether it's really going through this cell, going through this policy. How we can confirm that? It's a little bit tricky. So let me show you. If you go to settings, system, integration, you can see this activity logging. By default, in your case, it may be off. And if you switch on the internally stored, this won't work for the default firewall policies. If you switch on the internally stored, yes, it will work for your custom firewall policy, but your default firewall policy won't generate log. It won't show up in your log file. So the way to really see it is you click on this SIE server. Even though you do not have an external syslog server, it doesn't matter. You simply switch this on. Then maybe for the server address, you specify some random thing, even knowing it doesn't exist. Again, as I mentioned, it doesn't really matter. What really matters is this part, the contents part. See this edit button? You have 12 categories to select from. If you want, you can disable all of them, only enable this firewall default policy. Okay, as long as you switch on this one, the system will generate log if your traffic goes through the default firewall policy. So let me save the setting, apply changes. Then in the lower right terminal, let me SSH to the UDM Pro. Then I go to the folder var log ulog. This particular file, syslog emu.log, is the file I want to see. The default firewall logs will be written to this file. Now in the left side, let me repeat the ping to generate a traffic so that we can see the log entry. So let me just ping the VLAN 10 client once so that we have less traffic. Okay, it's successful, right? Then from the right side SSH, let me VI this syslog file. Then let me search a special string because I know what's the source IP address. It's 192.168.3.2, and I know what's the destination IP address. It's 192.168.10.23. Right? So let me search for this particular string. Okay, found it. See this particular example log from VPN to LAN, and the description is allow all traffic, exactly as what we see in the firewall. So in UniFi network controller, let me go to firewall. From VPN to internal, we have an existing firewall policy. It's called allow all traffic, right? And it's from VPN to internal or from VPN to LAN. It's the same thing, right? And the protocol is ICMP. That's exactly the ping message. So now we are confident. We have hard evidence that this cell from VPN to internal is the correct cell we want to create our custom firewall policy in. Okay, in UniFi network controller, I'm already in this cell. Let me create a policy. The name, block teleport client to VLAN 10, source zone VPN. And this time, unlike the previous scenario for WireGuard, I can select server, then choose WireGuard, right? This time you can see teleport is simply not listed here. So the way to restrict teleport is I go to IP and then I say specific or object, either one work. Let me use specific. Then here I specify a subnet. I know the subnet should be 192.168.3 subnet. So in your case, it may be different. So you need to use the correct subnet for your environment. Let me add it. Then for action block, for destination zone, of course, I want to select network. It should be VLAN 10 only. Add policy. Now it should be effective. In the left side, let me ping the VLAN 10 client again. See, now it's not pingable. So it's working, right? And to confirm, it's really due to our firewall policy. We can temporarily pause the policy. See, the ping is successful now. Now we are 100% confident it works and it works correctly. So you can see this teleport situation is really a very special case, right? Ubiquiti should have done a better job to let you specify the subnet for teleport or list teleport under the VPN zone by default. It will save us a lot of troubles. Okay, let's move on. The third scenario of the video, your gateway is just a VPN client. So you can see in your UniFi gateway, if you go to VPN client, you can set up WireGuard or OpenVPN client. So in the lower left, I show you my another lab environment. It is using UXG Pro. So in UXG Pro under VPN, I already set up a WireGuard server. And in the WireGuard server, for subnet, I specified 66 subnet. And I already added a client for the UDM Pro. Okay, so from the VPN server side, I'm ready. Then go back to the lab gateway, the UDM Pro. Under VPN client, let me create a new client and then upload the configuration file, which I already downloaded from the UXG Pro. I don't need to change anything. Apply changes. Then the system automatically prompts whether I want to create a policy-based route. Of course I do. So let me proceed. Then let me say VLAN 10 to use UXG Pro. Okay. Then for source, let me choose VLAN 10. For interface, WireGuard client, which I just created. That's a VPN tunnel. Okay. Add entry. Yeah, the policy-based route is enabled. Then go back to VPN. You can see the status is connected. Now from my VLAN 10 client, I should be able to connect with a client in UXG Pro. So if I go to UXG Pro for networks, you can see I have a VLAN 20 there. Then in the lower part of the screen, in the left side is the VLAN 20 client from the UXG Pro, which is in the VPN server side. Then the right part is the VLAN 10 client, which is in this lab environment in the VPN client side. In the left side terminal, let me check the IP address. It's .20.16. From the right side, let me ping the left side. Okay, it's pingable, right? Let's say I want to prevent it. I don't want the VLAN 10 client to be able to communicate with the VLAN 20 client. So how I can do that? If I go to UniFi gateway, by the way, because now we are talking about two UniFi gateways, right? Theoretically, to achieve this, you can do setting in either part. But because now my UXG Pro still doesn't have the official firmware to support zone-based firewall, in this video, I'm going to show you how to do that in the UDM Pro. So from the UDM Pro, you can already observe a interesting situation which may contradict with your understanding. See which zone the WireGuard client is put to. Is put to external, put to 1. Even though after you see that, you think about it, it makes sense, right? The other side is VLAN 10. Just by looking at the zone information, we already know to achieve what we want, we need to introduce a firewall policy from internal to external in this particular cell. You can see now there are only two default firewall policies, right? Again, just to exercise what we mentioned in previous scenario, let's double check. Let's make sure this is the correct cell. So in the lower part of the screen, I launched two terminals. The right one is the VLAN 10 client. Let me try to ping the VLAN 20 client again. This time only ping it once before I kick it off. In the left side, in the gateway, let me use tail file to show you the change to the syslog in real time, but I only want to show you this particular firewall rule information, which is from the VLAN 10 client to the VLAN 20 client. So let me run it. Then in the right side, let me start the ping. Okay, see the right side was successful, and then in the left side, we did capture one syslog. What's the zone information? It's from LAN to 1. That makes sense, right? If you check the diagram, from the lab environment, the gateway perspective, the VLAN 20 is in the 1 part. And also from the UniFi gateway's zone information, you can see WireGuard client is in external zone. Now we are confident, yes, this particular cell from internal to external is the one we want to change. So let me create a policy and name it as block VLAN 10 to VLAN 20, source zone, internal, network VLAN 10. The destination is external. Here I don't have the option to choose subnet of the remote site. To limit the VLAN 20, I go with the IP option. Then I use the subnet for VLAN 20 in remote site. Okay, add. I am done. Add policy. Just to make the testing more interesting, let me enable the syslog login. Okay, this is a custom firewall policy, right? To make sure the log will appear in the file we have been checking, I need to go back to System Integrations, and here I do need to select triggers, which is for custom firewall policies. Save it, apply changes. Then in the lower part terminals, in the left side, let me run the same tail command again. Then in the right side terminal, let me do the same ping again. Let's see what's changed this time. See, the right side is hangs there because it's not successful. That's exactly what we want to achieve, right? Then in the left side, you can see the firewall policy is different. Now it's the same zone information from LAN to WAN, but this time the firewall policy is the one we just created. Okay, so we have successfully prevented this type of traffic. Now let's move on to the very last scenario for this video. In this section, let's discuss site-to-site VPN. Ubiquiti provides a very convenient way to create site-to-site VPN. It's called Site Magic. In this video, let's use Site Magic. I do have a dedicated video discuss Site Magic. I will put the link to the description. So under the hood, Site Magic uses WireGuard to establish VPN mesh if you choose the mesh way to establish VPN, and then use OSPF for routing. On the screen, you see I have the lab environment using UDM Pro and another lab environment using UXG Pro, and in the lower right, I show you the Site Magic. So let me create a meshed sites connection. Get started. Then let me choose the UDM Pro, UXG Pro, and another one which has public IP address. Okay, it lists all the VLANs provided by these three gateways. What I want for this video is for UDM Pro, I want to select VLAN 10. For UXG Pro, VLAN 20. For the other gateway, let me choose a random one. I don't really need it. I simply need its public IP address. So let me choose a random one. Connect. Okay. So the system is trying to connect to all the three gateways. Give it some time till all the lights become green. Okay, they are green. So we have successfully established connections among the three sites. Then in the lower right, VLAN 10 client, let me ping the VLAN 20 client. Yeah, it's pingable, right? So in this video, I don't like it. I want to prevent it. So I need a custom firewall policy. Of course, we need to figure out in which cell we need to create the firewall policy. In the UDM Pro's network controller, let me go to security. After discussing the previous three scenarios, now you must be paranoid. You are not sure which cell you need to create the firewall policy in, right? Don't worry about it. As I mentioned, you have an easy way to confirm which cell is the correct cell by checking the syslog, right? In the interest of time, I don't want to waste your time. So basically the answer is, for this scenario, the cell is LAN VPN, which means from internal to VPN. So let me click on this cell, create a policy. So let me say block VLAN 10 to VLAN 20. And it's for Site Magic. Then for source zone, the network is VLAN 10, and for destination, the zone is VPN. And see here, now we have the side-to-side enabled. This option was not enabled in previous scenarios, right? But because now we have the side-to-side VPN successfully established, that's why you see this option. So I need to choose the side-to-side. Then I need to choose the gateway. In my case, it's the UXG Pro. Then unfortunately, it still doesn't list out the VLAN from the remote side, because in my current VPN setting, I only selected VLAN 20 from the UXG Pro, right? So I can simply select the whole gateway. But in your case, you have multiple VLANs selected. You may want to use IP, right? But for my case, I can easily use side-to-side, okay? Then I am done. Add policy. When it's active, I can go to the VLAN 10 client, run the same command again. See, it's not successful now, right? And then if we go back to this UniFi gateway, we say manage. If we pause this particular firewall policy, you can see the ping resumes, right? We confirm this firewall policy is a correct one. Before ending this video, I still have two things to mention. First, in this video, we have only dealt with one side of the firewall policy direction. For example, we create policy maybe from internal to VPN, right? But in fact, to make the setup complete, many times you want to deal with the other direction as well. For example, from VPN to internal, right? But because point number one, this video, we simply want to block. So to change the other side of policy is not absolutely necessary. Reason number two, we don't have enough time to make this video 100% complete. So based on your requirement, especially if you don't want to block, you want to allow the connection, then you need to be careful. You may want to deal with the other side of firewall policy as well. And the second thing I want to mention is we use the syslog as a tool to help us understand which cell we need to use, right? But don't forget, once you are done, you want to change your setting back. For example, if you don't have an external syslog server, you may want to disable the syslog because the logging itself will also consume system resources. Okay, this is the end of the video. Thanks for watching.